In this video, I want to take a look back at quarterback Wilton Speight's time in Ann Arbor as a Michigan Wolverine. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Dr. Anwar Youssef Dunbar, and this is Big Discussions 76 Sports. First of all, please like this video, please share it, and please subscribe to my channel. Well, I wanted to come back and shoot a video. I haven't done any pre-records for the channel in a long time. I've been doing a lot of the live streams, and in the last live stream talking about the 2022 recruit Will Johnson and whether or not he'll actually come and suit up in the maize and blue, Wilton Speight's name came up. You know, when you finish those live streams, and even during the live streams, sometimes the conversation strays into other areas, and it just so happened to stray into the quarterbacks or the quarterback position. And I've talked about Wilton Speight quite a few times here on Big Discussions 76 Sports, but I never created a video on him, and that's why I'm here. And so when I look back at his brief stint in Ann Arbor, for me, of all the quarterbacks coached under Jimbo, Wilton Speight was my favorite, and I think he was the best. Now, some of you may argue with that, but that's just my personal opinion based upon what I saw. And we've talked about this almost ad nauseum on this channel, the fact that under head coach Jim Harbaugh, we would have expected to have had at least one stud quarterback at this time, but we haven't had that. Instead, it's been a revolving door of quarterbacks. He chose to go with a grad transfer his first season in Jake Rudock. Wilton Speight won the job Jim's second year. It was Wilton's job coming back Jim's third year. And then, of course, we know that he hurt his back against Purdue, but he did also struggle up to that point relative to the 2016 season. In the 2018 season, in that 2017 season after he got hurt, John O'Korn got the job. John O'Korn lost the job to Brandon Peters, and then Brandon Peters got hurt, and then John O'Korn got the job back, and then Brandon Peters got the job for the bowl game against South Carolina. And then Jim brought in Shea Patterson, who held the job for 2 years, and then in this shortened COVID pandemic season, Joe Milton finally got the chance to start, and we all know how that turned out. And it seems as though going into the 2021 season, the job now belongs to Cade McNamara. But going back, it's fascinating, and for us as fans, also it's frustrating that we haven't had one quality guy consistently over a series of years calling the plays and throwing the ball for us. When I think back to Wilton's career in Ann Arbor, in the maize and blue, he was a Brady Hoke kid. So when Jim took over the program, in 2015, Jim inherited Wilton Speight and a host of other quarterbacks. So that means when Wilton first got on campus in Ann Arbor, he was on the sidelines watching Devin Gardner run for his life. He was watching Shane Morris get in to battle for the job a little bit, and he was watching all of that go on. And then when Jim came on, there was a competition for the position, and then Jake Rudock ultimately got the nod once he transferred in. And I think a bunch of us have argued over that, about whether or not that was a good idea or not. I personally think that Wilton should have gotten the job and should have gotten the chance to start immediately when Jim Harbaugh took over. Jake Rudock was a bit of a game manager, and he did a good job for a one-year quarterback. He, in our program, he started off slow, and then he caught a stride at some point during the season. But if you go back to, I think it was the Indiana game, it was either the Indiana or the Minnesota game, after Ryan Glasgow got hurt and we couldn't stop teams on the ground, Jake Rudock got hurt late in one of those games, and it was Wilton Speight who came back in and won that game for us. I think it was in overtime. That second season under Jim Harbaugh in 2016, I thought that Wilton played great up until he broke his collarbone. It was great to see a stud quarterback, a tall pro-style quarterback, taking the snaps, standing in the pocket, throwing deep balls down to Amar Darboh and J.U. Chesson and Jake Butt. And it was just great to see that, because we hadn't seen that consistently, probably not since Lloyd Carr was our head coach. So again, I thought he played well up until that game out in Iowa City when he broke his collarbone. That season, that next week, John O'Corn took over in relief of him for a narrow win over Indiana. And of course, we all know what happened down in Columbus that next week. And arguably, had Wilton been healthy, because the kid had a broken collarbone, and I wasn't even sure that he was going to play that game. He did throw, I believe, 2 picks in that game, but had he been healthy, who knows? And sports, in my opinion, sports are rough, man. You know, especially football, especially basketball. There's so much that goes into what happens on the field and on the court. Injuries, instability, in the ranks of the coaches can play a role. Poor chemistry, toxic locker rooms, all those things can play a role in terms of what happens on the field or on the court. And I thought the kid played good, and I thought that some bad things eventually happened to him in terms of injuries. And then, as I'll discuss later in this video, and as some of you have pointed out in my live streams, the shuffling of the coaching staff had something to do with it as well. So I'm going to read something for you guys, which will probably be the body of this video. Hopefully it won't go for a whole 30 minutes as it did when I read one of John U. Bacon's, or when I read some of John U. Bacon's passages. But there's something here that I want to read that I thought was worth capturing on video. So what I'm about to read for you guys is a feature written on Wilton Speight. This is from the game program from the 2016 Maryland game. That season, I think homecoming might have been against Purdue or Indiana, and I really wanted to go to that game. I really wanted to fly up to Ann Arbor to go to that game, but we had what we call at my current 9 to 5 a science advisory panel, and I was involved in that meeting in terms of being one of the presenters. So I couldn't get away for that weekend, but I still wanted to make the trip up to Ann Arbor, so I decided to go to the Maryland game. It wasn't much of a game at that time. On the cover here, you see there's a picture of Jake Butt. and Wilton was the quarterback, and I picked up my $5 program, which they hand out at the Big House for the home games. And there was a really nice feature about him in here, and I'm going to read this because I think it kind of captures the momentum of how he was playing at that time. It tells a little bit about his history, and it just tells us a little bit about who he was and his quarterback journey. So this says Wilton Speight, junior quarterback, savers leadership role. Playing quarterback is all Wilton Speight has ever wanted to do. It incorporated the physical skill and mental fortitude that appealed to him. When I was playing Pee Wee football at 5, 6, 7 years old, said Speight, I always wanted to prove to everyone that I had the strongest arm, that I could lead the team best, and that stuck with me. Now that I'm into college ball, everyone has a strong arm and everyone can make plays. It's about how quickly you can make the decision, that decision. That's what I love about the position, that there's so much responsibility and weight on the team's success based on how the quarterback plays. That's something I've always loved. He's thriving at the position for number 2 Michigan and has completed 63% of 207 passes for 1,691 yards, 13 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. While the competition he faced from John O'Corn, Shane Morris, and Brandon Peters to earn the starting job was stiff, Speight, who has 2 seasons of eligibility remaining after this one, came out the winner. The Wolverines have had a bevy of NFL quarterback starters, beginning with Jim Harbaugh 30 years ago, peaking with New England Patriots superstar Tom Brady, and including prolific passers like Elvis Gerbach, Todd Collins, and Chad Henne. Living up to the greatness and competing against other elite players is nothing new for Speight. He grew up watching Russell Wilson, who quarterbacked Wisconsin to a Rose Bowl and the Seattle Seahawks to a Super Bowl victory. Lead the high school. He later attended to 3 state. Also led the high school. He later attended to 3 state championships. Speight took the collegiate school in Richmond, Virginia, to the state title game twice himself and threw for 5,879 yards and 68 touchdowns as the starter in his junior and senior seasons. Wilson has kept an eye on Speight and saw him lead the Wolverines over the Badgers, hitting Amara Darboh in stride for the game-winning 46-yard touchdown pass midway through the 4th quarter. I've been able to watch Wilton a little this season, Wilson said in an email interview with mgoblue.com. Obviously, they beat my Wisconsin Badgers, and that was tough, but I was happy for Wilton. Those games, those wins don't come easy. He's a great worker and has worked really hard to put himself in the position to be successful. He has a great family, and he does things the right way. That's what I love about him. The bonds formed at Collegiate continue through the fame gained and the distance thousands of miles can bring. There was another unbelievable quarterback between me and Russell, Speight said. It was Jake McGee, who is now a tight end for the San Diego Chargers. He went to the University of Virginia as a quarterback and switched to tight end, but was an unbelievable athlete. So I was the backup to him my freshman year and got a lot of playing time and learned from him as well. McGee won 3 state championships, one less than Wilson, while the best Speight could do was get the Cougars to the title game twice. However, Marco Palaio, the offensive coordinator for Wilson and head coach for McGee and Speight, entrusted Speight with something that he didn't with the other 2. One thing that I did with Wilton that I did not do with the previous 2 guys was there were times in games during his senior year that I would turn the offense over to Wilton and let him call what he saw on the field, Palaio said. That's a lot of responsibility, and part of that is what you learn in talking about the opponent and seeing what they give you. This was really a sign of what Wilton is in taking on that responsibility and then maturing in high school and saying, Coach, I want to call the plays again. We did that a few times in his senior year. I just felt right with Wilton. However, the coach also realized the pressure Speight was under because of the quarterbacks he followed. What did everyone want to do, Pelayo asked. They wanted to compare him to the guys before him. But all three were different types of players with characteristics that separated them. Pelayo said Speight's attraction to the responsibility of the position is part of what made him unique. That shows how Wilton thought about things even as a young person, Pelayo said. Even with everything he was doing around school, he wanted to be that leader, the one others would look up to. When I think about Wilton on the field, the thing that comes to mind is how he grew as the leader of the team in terms of being the quarterback and the team captain. That responsibility, he takes it all to heart. He wasn't looking at it for personal numbers or anything like that. He wanted the team to be successful. When it wasn't that great of a performance from him, and maybe the team struggled a little bit, he would take that on himself and acknowledge it and tell the guys, hey, I'm going to work better. I did some things that weren't so great, but I want to do better and help this team achieve. I hear his interviews at Michigan, and he takes that same approach. He just wants his team to win, and he will work and study and take care of his end of things. Speight learned how to compete and channel the tension it can bring at collegiate. There's a lot of pressure there to be able to perform and lead a team and school to victory, Speight said. But that's something I always loved. I was used to it too. I came to Michigan with a ton of pressure to be successful, to be a successful quarterback with the history that we have, but I'd done it with Russell Wilson ahead of me and Jake McGee too. I got a lot of comparisons to two big-time quarterbacks, and I was pegged as the big, slow quarterback. Obviously, I wasn't Russell Wilson, but I like to compare myself to the Pittsburgh Steelers' Ben Roethlisberger a little. He's not the fastest dude ever, but is mobile enough to get out of dodge and make plays when he needs to. Collegiate school, where the motto is minds that seek, hearts that serve, is a college preparatory co-ed school for students K through 12. Speight and his older brother Griffin and younger brother Jess all went or go to collegiate, and Pelayo beamed about the one game in which all three played together. Speight stays up on Wilson through common friends and regularly communicates with McGee. He also calls Pelayo and talks with quarterbacks coach Trip Featherston. Coach Pelayo came up for the Colorado game, and he and I still talk every day. He's a huge impact on my life and my success to this point, as does Trip Featherston, my quarterback coach. The two of those guys were huge. The two of those guys were a huge reason why I'm here. Speight, 6'6" and 243 pounds, was recruited by Brady Hoke. He didn't play as a freshman when Devin Gardner started. He played sparingly as Jake Rudock's backup last season, but did make a key contribution by leading a comeback victory at Minnesota when Rudock was injured. Harbaugh wasn't exactly enamored with Speight at first, but he totally won over Harbaugh by accepting his challenges. Speight uses each day, each game, like a building block to the foundation of a career that rises every day, every game. He's bonded with Michigan passing game coordinator Jed Fish, who shares his affinity for study, preparation, creativity, and the long ball, which Speight throws with impressive touch and accuracy. He completed 16 of 32 passes for 253 yards and 2 touchdowns with 0 interceptions against Illinois for his most passing yardage in a Big Ten game. I thought Wilton Speight may have had one of his best games of his career, Harbaugh said after the game. It's windy and tough to throw the ball, whether into the wind or with the wind, coming from the northwest at 20 to 30 miles per hour. He was throwing the intermediate deep stuff, the 30, 35, 40-yard throws. He was just on the money. He was impressive. I have a feeling that was the best he played. The kid who got into quarterbacking because he loved flinging footballs as far as he could and the responsibility of leading a team is going deeper with his throws and leadership. The Wolverines are undefeated after 8 games, and the quarterback from collegiate is a big reason why. So guys, the first time I actually saw Wilton without his helmet and pads and jersey, I didn't know who he was. It was actually here in the DMV. Jim Harbaugh's first year, the Wolverines came and played Maryland, and Jake Rudock was the starter. It was a cold, chilly day, and like many Michigan fans, I waited near the buses afterwards to get a glimpse of the players and maybe get an autograph and shake some hands and tell them they're doing a good job. And I saw this tall kid, and I think his family was there because he's from Virginia, so I think they made the drive up. And I didn't know who he was, but he was kind of charismatic, kind of lighthearted, kind of in a joking mood, and those kinds of things. And then when he got the start the next year, when he got into the Minnesota game, I said, oh, okay, that's that tall kid that I saw. But a couple things. So some of the people who've come into my live streams have said that Jedd Fisch leaving was significant. In that piece, it was stated that Wilton had a close bond with Jedd Fisch. So certainly, I think Jedd Fisch leaving might have had something to do with why he seemed to take some steps backwards at the beginning of the 2017 season. You also have to keep in mind that that entire veteran group of skill position players graduated. J.U. Chesson, Amar Darboh, and Jake Butt. He had a young offensive line that 2017 season. And going back to the skill position players, you lose J.U. Chesson, Amar Darboh, Jake Butt, and now you bring in a young Donovan Peoples-Jones, you bring in Tariq Black, you bring in a young Nico Collins. So it's the entire offense around him pretty much turned over. Davion Smith, who was really good with pass protection, he wasn't the most explosive runner, but Davion Smith was gone. So there was a huge amount of turnover around him, and I don't know if Jimbo talked about this with Wilton, but he probably would have had to have stepped his game up a little bit more to compensate for the inexperience around him. So he had a very small window of playing in Ann Arbor before he hurt his back against Purdue. And as you know, playing at a major Division I school is competitive. As soon as you get hurt, there's someone else going in who's after the job. And so I think in that off season, I think Jim was recruiting Shea Patterson. So Wilton transferred out to UCLA, and he went undrafted, but I think he was on the 49ers roster for a little bit. Before I stop this, because this is going a little long, that 2016 season, keep in mind, when he got hurt, the Wolverines were undefeated. And he started 12 games that season. He completed 204 passes with 331 attempts for a completion percentage of 61.6%. He threw for 2,538 yards, and I'll skip over. He threw for 18 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. A couple of those came against Ohio State in the J.T. Barrett first down game. But again, got to remember, he was playing with a broken collarbone. And going into that game, I wasn't even sure that he was going to play. And I didn't think he was going to play. I think a lot of folks didn't think he was going to play. So those 7 interceptions you kind of have to look at those with a bit of an asterisk. And of course, his very first play, his very first series as a starter, I think it was against Navy or Air Force, he did throw an interception on his first series. And his final completion percentage for that season was 139.8. So when he was healthy and he had a nice veteran team surrounding him, I thought the kid did pretty good. And to this day, of all the quarterbacks under Jimbo, Wilton Speight is my favorite. You could argue that Shea might have been the best. Maybe Rudock might have been the best under Jimbo, but I'm going to opt for Wilton Speight. So with that, I'm gonna stop this video. Please let me know what you think in the comments section below. Please like this video, please share it, and please subscribe to my channel. If you want to leave something in the tip jar below, that information is there. Go blue, and as always, remember that your attitude determines your altitude. Take care, and I will talk to you the next time. Bye-bye.